What's up, guys? Coach Cap here. Just wanted to come to you tonight with a little bit of a message about what is normal, especially when it comes to dieting, exercise, lifestyle, habits. I feel that our judgment of what is considered normal is very skewed based on dogma, based on things that have taken us. There's something called the Overton window. Okay, if you ever looked at that in politics, it's like what's socially acceptable and how over the years the window moves to either the left or the right based on what's acceptable in society. And I feel like the same thing is the case for nutrition, health, fitness. Perfect example I always thought about was, let's say you decide to go for a run around, you work in an office complex, you decide to go for a run on your lunch. All these people outside smoking a cigarette, that's considered normal. But you doing the exercise, doing the running, that's not considered abnormal. And everybody kind of looks at you and is like, some of them wish they could do that. Other ones are kind of like, can you believe this guy does that on lunch? Like, no, I look at you and I say, I can't believe that you're out there smoking, killing yourself, right? So the Overton window for me is a lot different in terms of normal than I think when it comes to fitness and health and nutrition than it is for most people. And I think that's a place we all need to get to in order to realize that we've been living in a world that is a lie in terms of what is healthy for your body, and the conventional wisdom and dogma that goes along with the standard American diet and staying healthy, preventing illnesses like diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, arterial sclerosis. It's always hard to say that one. All of these things are really related. They all stem off the same tree, which is metabolic dysfunction. And if you can get your nutrition and fitness in order, you can mitigate a lot of their effect through what's called epigenetics. And when I say get your fitness in order, I don't mean that you got to go hard and heavy and train. Fitness doesn't have to be, you don't have to look at it and be like, oh man, I got to go do that. Like, it could be a walk, guys, right? It could be zone 1 cardio, where you're at like 50 or 60% of your maximum aerobic heart rate, right? And then there's zone 2 cardio, where you're more at like 60 or 70% of your maximum aerobic heart rate. Zone 1, you should do it frequently, very frequently, every day, right? 10,000, 12,000 steps. Zone 2, you should do that like 3-4 times a week, and then, you could skip zone 3 and 4 and just go right to zone 5 for like 1 or 2 days a week, If you don't understand the difference with the zones, it's a little bit more beyond the scope of this video, but just know you should do them in that kind of capacity in order to have a really good balance in terms of a fat burning metabolism, making sure that you're sustaining muscle mass because you're doing resistance training, and then also you're releasing anti-aging hormones and improving VO2 max, lung capacity, and endurance. That'll cover all the bases, right? So you do that and you got that all covered. But then comes the nutrition aspect of it, and you want to make sure that you're on a diet that is going to be very low inflammatory, is going to keep your blood sugar balanced and keep your insulin levels low, because that's going to allow your body to properly produce and metabolize energy, particularly fat energy that is stored on your body. Now, people want to call it keto, right? People want to call it the ketogenic diet. Guys, this is like our I hate when people do that, because that is our default operating system. It's not a diet. What you're on right now is a diet, and it's the standard American diet, and it's SAD, sad, that you're on it. The default operating system of us is the ketogenic diet. All right, a lot of people say, oh, it was developed in 1921 to help with epilepsy and different brain chemistry and balancing. Yeah, but guys, before 1921, there was the caveman who would get up in the morning, not have access to food. So guess what? He's producing ketones. He's fasting, right? He goes out for a hunt. He doesn't run. He needs to save energy. He can't expend it so rapidly. And he needs his muscle tissue, so he can't necessarily run. He'll sprint when he needs to, but he'll walk around. He'll forage. He'll then find an animal, maybe throw a spear at it, get the animal, take it. There's a process, bring it back, cook it. All this time, he's just working off of what he has on his body for energy. And then finally, he gets to a point where he could eat the animal. Okay, well, where's his carbs? All right, you think he's going to cook a bowl of pasta or a bowl of rice next? No. And depending on the season, he may or may not have access to vegetables. So he's going to eat that meal. If there was some type of preserving technique back then, he'll try to preserve what he can. But in most cases, there's not. So he'll have to do it all again tomorrow. So you're lucky to get maybe 2 meals a day in, right? And those meals are all high fat, animal fat, high protein, and no carbs. Guys, there's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. There's no such thing as it. Your body doesn't need carbohydrates. You need 0 carbohydrates. Why do I say that? Why is that true? Because your body, carbohydrates broken down into their simplest form are glycogen and glucose. Your body, your liver, can manufacture glucose on its own. Now, yes, it has to break down muscle tissue in order to do it. It's called gluconeogenesis, okay? But if you don't have carbohydrates, glucose in the body, in the bloodstream, and you have certain cells that require it, like your red blood cells, your body's going to break down some muscle tissue or get it from existing amino acids that are floating around from the protein that you ate. So in order to fuel your glucose needs, you don't need carbohydrates. As a matter of fact, the less carbohydrates you eat, the more stable your blood sugar is going to be, and therefore the lower your insulin is going to be. And the lower your insulin is, it allows more burning of stored body fat, which is ketones. Body fat gets metabolized, it turns into 2 different fuel sources, ketones and fatty acids. Fatty acids generally go to support muscle function and contraction, and the ketones go to your brain. As a matter of fact, ketones are a much cleaner form of fuel for your brain. A lot of people who are insulin resistant, meaning that their cells are just like, hey, no more, insulin, you're showing up way too often. We don't want you to get in. It's almost like you develop like a resistance to it, right? Think about it like this. You get a Starbucks, like you haven't had coffee in a while. You get a Starbucks your first day, right? Or maybe some of you like Dunkin' Donuts. I don't know. Don't judge me. Anyway, you get the Starbucks, you drink it. You're like, whoa, I got this caffeine thing, man. It's great. You got all this energy, right? You do that for a week. You're going to have that same caffeine rush a week later? No. You developed a resistance. The same thing happens with insulin. Your body develops a resistance. It won't let in the sugar. It won't let in the glycogen, right? So you become what's called insulin resistance. This is what leads to diabetes, all this stuff. But the interesting thing is that if you lower that blood sugar, and even if let's say your brain, right, is insulin resistant, not letting that glycogen in, it will let in ketones without insulin having to be present. So you can bridge this gap. A lot of research is showing now that Alzheimer's disease and stuff like that, they're calling it type 3 diabetes. It's basically insulin resistance of the brain. And your brain is becoming insulin resistant, not allowing the fuel in. And as a result, you're becoming forgetful, or you're slipping into a dementia or Alzheimer's as you get older. A way to bridge that gap and to have more mental clarity is to operate off ketones and to operate at that lower glucose level in the blood, so that ketones can be derived from your fat cells on your body. So bringing me back to my original point, what do we consider normal? I'm at a point where this is normal for me. This way of eating, this way of living, this lifestyle. What everybody else is doing is abnormal. And if you can get to that place, then you got to figure it out. And once you got it figured out, it's no longer work. Because now it's just lifestyle. And actually you feel off, different, not as good if you get off of that lifestyle. Because you become, at least in my case, addicted to the feeling of being healthy, knowing you're doing everything you can to prevent illness, and that puts you into a state of mind where you're positive, you're happy, you're confident, because you're doing everything you can to maintain health and to prevent illness. And that's all you can really do. That's all you have control over. So why not do that? Live that way. Be the guy that's out there on lunchtime, running, walking, exercising, who all the smokers are looking at going, wow, look at that guy, imagine doing that. Oh, I can't go back to the office sweaty. Yeah, all these excuses. Those are the people that are gonna not live as long, and their last several years are going to be, unfortunately, painful and disease-ridden. So I always tell you guys, what I'm trying to do is I'm out here trying to die of old age. I just want to, be 100 years old and just go in my sleep. I don't want to suffer. I don't want to go through any type of illnesses. I see my mother do it. It's not fun. And it really affects the people around you too. So here's to longevity. Peace.